Carlos, if you don't mind, I'll just go ahead and start without the screens. It's not a big deal.
It should be in the back. It should have been, sorry, hold on 1 second.
Good. Okay. Okay, we'll start tonight's City of Olivet's Planning and Community Design Commission for August 17th to order. Sorry for the delay, but we were missing our vital, crucial component to it. But he's back now, so we're all on track. So thanks everybody for coming. Madam Vice Chair, would you please call the roll?
Chairman Robert Jurgil,
Present.
Secretary Jody Rich,
Absent.
Member Brian Lewis,
Present.
Member Tim Spiegelglass,
Present.
Member Daniel Rosenberg,
Absent.
Excused.
and Member Sam Wallach,
Present.
and Chair and Vice Chairman Carol Wagoner, myself. I'm here.
Let it also be known that our City Council Liaison, Councilmember Missy Waldman is in attendance, as well as staff liaisons, Carlos Trejo, Director of Olivet's Planning and Community Development Department, Dawn Doty, Senior Planner, as well as Jack Carswell, Planner and Zoner Administrator. So there you go. All right, Carlos, am I missing anyone?
No, I think you got everybody.
Okay. So we'll go quickly through kind of the commission procedures. Most of you have been here before, so I think you know there's typically we go through the agenda items one by one. There'll typically be a staff report where Carlos or Dawn will present, go through the petition, kind of identify any changes, where it's going. There'll be time for us on the commission to discuss back and forth with staff. And then we typically bring on the petitioner, talk about the changes in the petition or background on it if it's something new. And then we typically have a time for public comments related to those agenda items. We also have a time for public comments at the very beginning. These are for items that are not on the agenda. So if you have a public comment related to that, when it comes up, just raise your hand. We'll have time to let you identify what we need. So also, we do ask any public comments or comments that are related to an agenda items that are from the public. We ask that those be limited to no more than 3 minutes to be respectful for everybody's time here, as well as to make sure everybody's opinion gets heard. Okay. That being said, we'll move on to item 3, which is the comprehensive plan update. Carlos?
Yes, my apologies for being tardy, but we were having a focus group meeting that was part of the comprehensive plan process. As everyone is aware, the city of Olivet is updating its comprehensive plan. The last plan was updated, or it was drafted in 2006, and we've gone through an iteration of updates to that plan, consisting of a catalyst strategy, a traffic management plan, and then a hilltop study last year. This plan will, of course, do an analysis of the current plan and all the other subsequent plans that we put together, and set the tone and policies that the city will focus on for the next 20 years in that process. Every community in the state of Missouri is required to prepare a comprehensive plan. All of it is doing theirs or ours here, and we're right in the middle of the process of that. Following our surveys, which we had over 300 responses, the community-wide meeting, which was over 125 participants in there, we looked at the demographics, and one of our goals in our plan is to be as inclusive as possible in outreach and participation. This is the community's plan. So we developed some focus group meetings because we found 3 segments that participated in the survey that didn't represent the actual population that they represent in all of that. We had a focus group with Asian Americans, focus group primarily with renters. We just completed a focus group with Black and African Americans. And tomorrow we'll do another focus group in the morning with local businesses in there. would have hoped that we would had a better attendance, but the outreach efforts have been good, and the input that these residents have provided has been very valuable to this process. And we want to make sure people feel heard. We want to provide those listening opportunities for our residents. We'll have a second survey that will probably be going out next week. That will be a community-wide survey available both in paper form and also on social media. So we want to make sure everybody takes that opportunity. Our next newsletter also goes out for next month. So this gives us an opportunity to ensure that we're advertising the information for that survey in that newsletter, which goes to every resident or household and all of that. The next meeting for the commission, which is on Thursday, September 7th, will be a joint council plan commission meeting in which our consultants will come in and have a workshop with both the council members and commission members. So please, it's an important meeting. Make sure you make every opportunity to attend that meeting and then on September 13th, our consultant, along with myself, will be the host with Coffee of the Mayor, again, bringing the community up to speed of where we are with this process. We are in the process of starting to receive draft recommendations from the consultants. Those will be discussed in September. The goal is to have a draft available to the community and have a community-wide meeting sometime in November with the schedule that we would have a plan completed by late December, early January. In there. So we've been on the schedule. Shockey Consulting has done a great job. Again, one of the core principles of our RFQ was community outreach. And I think they've been working very hard to make sure and ensure that we're giving every opportunity to get input from our community. So I'd be glad to answer any specific questions.
Any questions or comments? The only comment I have is just to encourage everybody to try to get involved wherever you can in this. And also to just talk to your other neighbors about it as well. It's just good to get as much involvement as we can to kind of see the direction of what the public really wants. It does provide the foundation that we need to, to kind of build upon. So, all right. That being said, we'll move on to public comments. Are there any public comments about something that's not related to the agenda item? I'm looking out in the audience and I'm seeing none. Carlos, you check the.
There's nobody online.
Nobody online?
No, sir.
All right, very good. I guess having it delayed 10 or 15 minutes. Might. All right, well, we'll move on to old business then. And it's item A, 595 Dealman Road. Carlos?
Chairman, this was, of course, in our last agenda 2 weeks ago. There was some direction that was given to the petitioner and also an extension that was granted to the petitioner to the commission, so these issues can be addressed. And I want to say every issue that we've had or request that we have discussed was provided under the new preliminary plat. This is a very good preliminary plat. I appreciate the effort and all the focus that was put in there. And I know this was, turned around real quickly last week. And there, what it does, it gives the commission, a good sense in terms of, how buildable are these lots, how viable are the properties. In paper, this property is being subdivided into 3 lots. And it meets all the city's minimum standards, but topography wise and other issues with this lot, that's why this lot has sat, undeveloped for quite some time. There were issues and we wanted to make sure that the commission was able to ensure that these issues or obstacles about redeveloping these properties were addressed. First was, we are aware that the State Emergency Management Agency is in the process of working on new floodplain maps, and that this property will be significantly impacted by those floodplain maps. Those floodplain maps are not official, but it behooves the city and it's the responsibility of us to ensure that any future property owners, that the properties that are developed won't be within the designated floodway or flood identification. And that's what they've done here. In this slide, you can see the blue line. identifies the proposed boundaries of the 100-year floodplain. And they will be shifting that boundary along this area here that you see in this circumference here. And they can do that because this plan is not official. They're raising the grades to ensure that these properties, if and when these maps are adopted, these properties would not be impacted adversely by that floodway designation in there. To further understand for the commission, they provided this cross section. This is very, I like cross sections because they tell you a lot. And what they've done here is really excellent in terms of providing you a concept of, on the extreme elevations of this property, this is the existing pavement. And you can see this elevation at 627. This is the extension of the cul-de-sac, which will maintain that 627. And you can see there's about a 2 to 3 foot grade differential in there. Then you have to slope towards the house and the top of foundation. And then you have this possible future flood elevation at 621.6. That's the one that we were concerned about, because in order to make it, you could build a house within the floodplain, but you can't make anything habitable below that designated elevation. What they've done is that the basement floor would be at a 622.5, so roughly almost a foot over that base flood elevation in there, and that house would have a top of foundation of 631. So at its most extreme, this is a cross section and the amount of fill that you would see being provided for that property, and they can make it work. The other thing we look at is we need to make sure that our residents and anybody coming in the future has a reasonable backyard and viable area. And you can see here how they would grade that backyard up to where the flood elevation is here, and make sure that that resident has at least a backyard in there. After that, they'll be backing up to the entirety of the tree line area, which they don't propose to disturb in there. So again, they provided the information we've kind of asked, so we can make an analysis in there. They also had indicated that the provided provisions for the walkway along the property that connects with that section off of the Long Acres Lane, and then provided an easement to connect to the city's multi-purpose trail to the north. And the petitioner has received an estimated bid to prepare what it would cost to put together the construction plans to make this a shovel-ready project in there, and is willing to provide, based on that estimate, cover the cost for that amount in there. And then that would put that on the city to then put those plans in place. So at this time, Chairman, unless there's any other questions, I compliment the surveyor and the engineering team for putting this together in there, but it really provides a lot of good security that these are good viable lots in that process.
Any questions or comments on the commission? The only question I have is the trees that are in the backyard. I mean, with all the fill that's going to go in, won't those have to be taken down?
Yeah, and there'll be probably several that would probably be removed in that process. And petitioners knows, I mean, when it submits, each individual lot will provide how they're replacing,
Makes sense.
making the replacement for those. Correct.
Makes sense. Okay, good. Since there's no questions or comments on the commission members, and it appears that they've gotten everything, taken care of, I'm not sure if we need to bring the petitioner up unless you want to add any more details. Okay, that being said, do I hear a motion?
I don't know if there's anybody in the public.
Oh, we better check.
Yes.
That's, thank you, Carl.
There's nobody. Right. Is there anybody, whether online or in the public, that'd like to speak regarding this petition? All right, Chairman, I'm showing none.
Okay,
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
go ahead, Carol.
I'd like to motion to approve the petition for preliminary subdivision plat for a 3-lot subdivision of the property currently addressed as 594 Dealman Road, as presented in the memorandum from the Department of Planning and Community Development dated August 17, 2023, subject to any staff recommendations or conditions noted herein.
And Chairman, if I may just kind of clarify that the property address is 595.
Yes, that's what I was,
Yeah.
friendly amendment.
It's a typo on my end on the report. I
Oh,
apologize for that.
okay.
No problem.
Motion's been made by Carol Wagner. Do I hear a second?
Second.
And seconded by Tim Spiegelglass. Carlos, you please call the vote.
Sure. Commissioner Waller,
Approved.
Commissioner Spiegelglass,
Approved.
Commissioner Lewis,
Approved.
Commissioner Wagner,
Approved.
Chairman Dragell.
Approved.
The motion passes unanimously 5-0. The next step in a plat process is to develop the subdivision improvement plans, which these go into great detail in the information that's being provided, but there's some other infrastructure work that they'll provide additional detail, like the street and the street curb, and then the sanitary, the storm inlet that's on the western side of the property. They also will be coming in with a final subdivision plat. The final subdivision plat will mimic pretty much what you've seen here, but it will be more of the legal document that gets recorded in St. Louis County, so it won't have any references to trees, utilities, houses. It's more of a the legal definitions of the individual properties that would be created out of it.
Good, good. Okay, thanks, everybody. We'll move on
Thank
to
you.
item B, which is 3 Stacy Drive. Carlos?
Chairman, this item was in our past two agendas for the construction of a new single-family home at the property address is 3 Stacy Drive. At the first meeting, it was deferred because there was some concerns expressed regarding the setback of the home structure. It was re-evaluated at our last meeting on August 3rd. And again, there was some direction from the commission of looking at 3 various proposals of the setback for the new home. And there, after that, there's been some discussions amongst the petitioner's team and one of the adjacent property owners, and there's seems to be a compromise that and a solution that's come about in there, and that's what's being presented to you today. Now, I have included the 3 different scenarios and proposals that were requested by the commission. Those are part of your packet. And at the end of the day, it appears that they're again, based on some of the concerns that were expressed, the petitioner's position, that there's a compromise to have a setback roughly 17.8 feet beyond the front building line, which is 40 feet in there. The only thing would be that there'd be an opportunity to verify that setback once the house is built to ensure that it complies with that. Part of our process in the permitting is that the petitioner is required to have a surveyor go out there, position points to footings before anything is poured. And there we just like them to share that information with the neighboring property owner and there. So beyond that, Chairman, I'd be glad to answer any specific questions or go over the house details. You have a lot of information before you, but I think the focus was that there was some collaboration between the various parties and a consensus on a setback that I think meets the city's goals and objectives and it satisfies both parties.
Leave it up to the commission members. Do you want to go through in detail, look at the different options, just so we can see it ourselves?
I'd like to.
Okay, Carlos, can we go through
Yes.
those?
Mhm. So these are, I'm gonna kind of get in a little closer in the scale just so that the commission can see the 3 setbacks. On each one, you'll see the adjacent homes outlined in red. In here, this is number 1 Stacy, this is number 5 Stacy, and then this is a proposed number 3 Stacy and the building structure. One of the options that the commission had requested was to have a setback set here at the southwest corner of the garage, roughly about 10 feet. And that's what you see here. Oops, I'm going to go back one here. This one provides a 28.3 foot front yard setback here, and that was kind of aligning with the average between the homes along here. So what you would actually see, or what would be shown, was that this house would be over 66 feet behind the right of way.
Does the right of way go to the street or just it's off the street? Is that right?
It's off the street.
Okay.
This scenario would shift it 10 feet closer, and the corner of the house would be 56 feet or a little bit over 56 feet behind the street right away. So roughly it's kind of has a 19-foot setback here. And this is the one, this is the scenario in which the overhead of the house kind of lines up with that setback. And then the third request is one that provides the setback of this back corner of the house right on the average here, and it sets the house roughly 50, a little over 50 feet from the right of way. What I want to make clear is of the three scenarios, there was one that's over 66 feet, one that's roughly about 56 feet, and one that's this one before you that's 50 feet. The compromise between the property owners appears to be that there's trying to think in terms of what that exact number would be.
Maybe if you can just pull that drawing up.
I'm gonna have to shift on you here one more second. Bear with me here. This scenario here is before the commission that would have a setback roughly almost 56 feet from the right of way. If I read the numbers correctly.
So it's really close to the middle option.
Correct. Yes. I perceive I got those numbers correct. I know it's getting.
Any questions or comments from the commission?
Carlos, you were part of, I guess, the non-negotiation, but the compromise. You kind of witnessed that everyone's satisfied.
Yes, and in your email is in your packet, there is an email from one of the neighboring property owners noting that while they would be willing to work with the petitioner at that setback. And that representative is here.
Yeah.
I
So,
want to speak on their behalf.
well, I think we better first, hear from Doug, if there's anything that Doug, you want to talk about? No? So I guess Corey, how, are you good with everything, just to verify?
So official, Corey, Fate 1 Stacy Drive. Yeah, so we went through and kind of aligned windows and made sure that we got the best that we could. The only thing that I wanted to verify was, and I don't know if Doug can speak to this or you have the architect here. I measured a discrepancy between the street measurement. There's two measurements that identify the corner of the house. There's a measurement off the corner of 1 Stacy and a measurement from the street to identify the same corner. Carlos, maybe you could zoom in. I think I
Is
can
this the-
point this out. Actually, the opposite corner. So the corner that's by Stacy. Easier for me to.
Corner.
No, by 1 Stacy. I'm sorry.
Okay, so I'm going back to the
Yep.
east.
And so yeah, so that measurement that you have there, which I think this thing is mirrored, I'm not sure. That measurement, and then there's a measurement, see the measurement from the corner of 1 Stacy out to that. Yes, so there's that measurement and then the measurement behind it going to 1 Stacy. That measurement, right? So when I measure from the corner of the house away, I get one position. And when I measure from the street backwards, I get a 4-foot discrepancy. So I don't know if it's my not understanding what the street measurement is, because I only have the street to measure from. Or what? When we were out there and we measured from the tree, all was good. But it's just the verification. If we are looking to align the houses and the windows of the houses, it's more important to take measurements from the existing house than necessarily spotting from the street. Because 4 feet would be significant to us.
You just
So
like to
I
make
don't
sure
think there's a
that-
problem. It's just, I want to verify that the position that we all think we're getting is what we're getting.
Which we can do kind of at the time in the field, right?
I would hope so.
I think that's what Carlos said, was that they're requesting that we would actually verify that survey point
Yeah.
once the footings are formed up
Right.
before they actually pour.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So that should address. it.
by the definition of, us going out to the property and the measurement from our house, then the compromise stands.
Good, good.
Okay, so.
Okay, great. Any other comments? Public comments? Seeing none in the audience, Carlos, should we please check online?
Chairman, there are none.
None?
None.
Any further
That second
discussion?
one's done.
Carol?
I think it's a good compromise.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, I'm glad it was a
Yeah,
compromise.
yeah, me
Actually,
too.
I'm very, very happy about that. So appreciate that tremendously. All right, that being said, no further comments. Do I hear a motion?
Chairman, I'll note there are two motions that will be considered by the commission. One is on the driveway and the driveway setback. And there are now also note that the existing driveway that serviced the property at 3 Stacy was encroached on the neighbor's yard, was over the neighbor's property.
wow.
And this is getting corrected, but they are asking to have a 3-foot setback rather than a 5-foot setback. So the commission would take a motion on the driveway variation and then follow that with the action consideration about for the new home petition.
Yeah, go ahead.
On that topic. Doug Cohen, Douglas Properties. I don't know when,
Address.
what,
Address
my home address?
or some address. You can- you should
1025 South McKnight, don't send me mail bound. I don't know how many years ago we put, this is just my opinion. When we put the 5-foot rule off the property line for the driveways, that's all fine and dandy. I don't know if whoever's making the rules here is knowing that potentially will increase the potential of front entry garages. I assume that when you made that rule, you were maybe aware of that. Second of all, and I appreciate the latitude that we have here to overrule that in times. But so when you have that 5-foot off, I think it was designed, correct me if I'm wrong, so that water runoff wouldn't go to the neighbor, that 5-foot buffer, right? But when the ground falls the other way, I don't see a need for that. Especially as I think the city is trying to promote side entry, rear entry garages. So I just want to make sure that, sometimes the layman, I know some of you are not laymen, but you don't know what happens in the field like what I do. So just as a advice on that 5-foot rule, maybe you should ask developers saying, if we gave you some latitude on that 5-foot rule, could you do away with the front entry garage? And then I know in Richmond Heights, I just finished a very similar house and I only had 20 feet on the turnaround, but I put in like a basketball free throw court, behind there for easier access to enable a side entry garage. And the customer gets in and out fine and backs up into that little basketball court area. So that's something. I know that there's a rule right now, it has to be 25 feet. And I don't know if this group has the ability to say, I know you don't have 25, maybe you have 20, but if you're adding that little turnaround in the back, basketball court type deal, again, a lot of these things will help gain the goal, which I think the city has, of side entry garages, just to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Good point. Thank you. Okay. Is there any discussion on these variants, for the side yard setback? Just before we take a vote on it. So, no, okay, good. Okay, Carlos, appreciate the explanation of the two motions. Do I hear a motion?
I'll do the first one.
Go ahead, Carol.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to motion a variation to the driveway. A motion to approve the petition for a variation to the driveway setback as presented in the memorandum from the Department of Planning and Community Development dated July 20, 2023, subject to any staff conditions noted therein.
Motion's been made by Carol Wagner. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
And seconded by Brian Lewis. I'm sorry, Brian. I'm not sure why I always blank out. on-
Yeah, it's okay.
All right. Carlos, you please call the vote.
Commissioner Wallach,
Approved.
Commissioner Spiegelglass, Commissioner Lewis,
Approved.
Commissioner Wagner,
Approved.
Chairman Drugo,
Approved.
motion passes unanimously 5-0.
Okay, do I hear another motion?
Somebody else?
I'll make a motion. Motion to approve the petition for site plan, community design and concept stormwater management plan review for a new single-family home at 3 Stacy Lane as presented in memorandum from the Department of Planning and Community Development dated August 17th, 2023, subject to any staff conditions noted therein. And those conditions include the proposed 56.9 foot setback presented to the commission.
Isn't it Stacy Drive?
That's what that's why I paused.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amended to say Stacy Drive.
All right. Motion made by Brian Lewis. Do I hear a second?
Mr. Chairman, I'll second.
And seconded by Carol Wagner. Carlos, you please call the vote.
Commissioner Wallach,
Approved.
Commissioner Spiegelglass,
Approved.
Commissioner Lewis,
Approved.
Commissioner Wagner,
Approved.
Chairman Drugo,
Approved.
motion passes unanimously. Next step in the process will be applying for the permits.
Okay, good. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate everybody working together. Okay, we'll move on to new business items. Item A is 9680 Olive Boulevard, Good Faith BP Amico.
Chairman,
Correct.
this is coming before you only for some clarification on the process that we'll take in terms of the review. We're all familiar with the service station and now convenience store at 9680 Olive Boulevard. The Good Faith BP Amico at the corner of Old Bonham Road and Olive. You see the video illustration. We approved an amendment to the special permit use probably a little bit over a year ago, and they made several of the improvements that were part of the conditions of the approval to include the C-store. The next step is now they're asking to place a canopy on the pump islands that are on the Olive Boulevard side. And the question comes, this would have been best addressed when we were initially going through the process, but being that they were not proposed at that time. This can come to the commission in two ways. One is that they have to go through the whole special permit process again, and that means that they have to go to council for final approval, or that the commission has the authority to take a look at this and consider it just an amendment, because the use itself is not changing in there. There are some conditions that they're noted more in your report in there that has to be considered by the commission to consider it just as an amendment, and that it doesn't increase the floor area in any way, require additional parking, or change the character of the surrounding areas. In this case, I don't believe it does, and would ask that the commission consider it as an amendment. I'll have them at our next our next meeting in September to present the canopy as a whole, which is pretty much what you have before you.
Carlos, on that drawing, it's shaded yellow. What is that shaded yellow?
That shaded yellow would be the canopy area, and it's well oversized.
Sorry, the graphic
Yep.
is off. I think I didn't look at that closely.
It's not hanging over all.
Yeah.
That's what I saw, like.
I'm glad it's an air and they're not really thinking of
Yeah.
covering the street.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask a question with regard to this project,
Go ahead.
because I get a lot of angst about it. How did something get orange when that building is white and green? How did that color get placed? Ooh, and I'm getting a lot of, that's ugly. Do they intend to match that over thing with the orange?
It's a
Do you
good
know?
question to ask. I couldn't tell you. There was no discussion regarding the colors of the facility when they came in for their permits. Or when they came in with the petition.
I think this board needs to take those things into consideration sometime, because I'm getting a lot of heck about that. People are telling me it's not very good looking.
Missy, what is it that you're thinking is orange? I'm not sure I see it as orange.
You cannot miss that building being painted orange on the fascia.
Okay,
Yeah,
I don't-
yeah, it's pretty bad.
It's
It
pretty there, Glenn.
So my real question is it was brought up and they were supposed to make all these improvements, do landscaping, do all this stuff. And I gotta tell you, I haven't seen anything and I drive by there every day. And I think it's kind of that they're coming back with this big thing to do and they haven't done it halfway. I want to use a different word, but it's not quality and it does not look quality. That place looks like it was done by not professionals, and that is the corner of our community. No landscaping, no sign out there yet. The old building was painted by God knows who. The curb looks terrible that they put in. And it just, I can't believe they're coming back and wanting to spend $50,000 on a canopy and they haven't done the rest of their stuff. That's my opinion, is they should close out everything else that they promised before they come back with something more.
Was the canopy part of what they were?
Not part of the original project. The conditions that were imposed, just so you're aware, was they install, those that were short-term was to install the sidewalk in front of the buildings, which they have. Close the, temporarily close the entrance that was closest here on Olive, closest to the intersection. And there, to do that, you have to go through MoDOT. And they went ahead and instead of doing a temporary closure with a barrier, they closed it. And yeah, the curb is questionable. Evidence is best, but they still have
Is this the city or not the city?
it's the state's jurisdiction.
Is
so
the state
the best
okay
of
with
my
that?
understanding, I have not heard that the permit's not in compliance in there, but it's a question we can ask and can check with them. But they would have gone through the Missouri Department of Transportation for that. And then the final thing is they are supposed to create a focus area in the front with the signage. And they were given up to 18 months to do so. They still have not hit that deadline yet in there, but you are right, that is required in there. And then if they were running short, that they had an opportunity to come back to the commission to request an extension on that.
The other thing I would want to see next week is actually cut sheets on this thing to make sure that this is a quality canopy, that it's not an awning that they're just throwing up there or back of a letter board. There's a big difference between quality of canopy and not, and that is literally going to be the first thing you see when you come into Alva is that canopy. That's going to overpower everything on that site.
Yeah.
So it needs to be the right thing if we're going to prove it. That's my opinion. I don't want to speak for everybody else, but it's pretty
I would
pretty
agree.
big deal.
I think that's a good observation.
And the color of it.
Yes.
Right. I mean, all of it,
Come on.
all of it.
Yeah, we're working with them and I'm disappointed like this.
Well, I am wondering if we should not approve this until they finish everything else. I mean, if this is something different, or what's the motivation to put the canopy up before they finish everything else?
I think we should let them tell us that,
Yeah,
but
How much longer do they have from the 18 months? Do we know?
Yes, in your packet here, there's a copy of the ordinance and its date of approval, September 2022. So they're still looking at probably
spring of next year.
that's not much.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Well, what, Carlos, what you're asking for here is, are we approving it, or is it just saying it doesn't need to be a modification of special permits? So special use permits, so it doesn't have to go to city council,
correct.
but
and
we would
the-
still see the design of this, even if we approve that. We're just avoiding city council, but we still can say no to the canopy if we don't like
That
it,
is correct.
if it's hanging in the street.
Or even on the aesthetics of
Yeah,
it.
exactly. So I don't think we're losing control. in that regard.
Does the
Right.
commission have discretion to request additional changes outside of what we're talking about
Yes,
here?
and they did do so when they enclosed the old bay. If you're familiar with the station, they used to have mechanic bays in there. They
Yep.
came last year in September to enclose those bays in there, and the commission imposed several conditions. As part of it. That included a pedestrian connection, off of from Old Bonham. The closure of one of the aprons, because they had 3 aprons on there, and then that focus area. But we did not get into the discussion in terms of any exterior facade improvements, nor did they show any at that time. In there, so on the painting, there's not a permit that's required in that process. Through the site plan review, it does give the commission jurisdiction over colors. And it was not a discussion we had.
They didn't mention that they were gonna
No.
be painting it, so, yeah.
So I think that we should, for a business on Olive especially, we should demand or say that we want color renderings now. And I think this is a lesson learned that we need to ask for that. And I gotta tell you, I'm pretty sure that most other cities ask for those color renderings too as well. And I think it's a good thing to do.
Right.
Okay,
Well, I'm okay with amending their special permit, but I do think they need to come in and talk with us.
yes, I agree. I definitely agree.
At
with
least
that.
give us a schedule or a plan to say, hey, we're
Right.
getting ready to do this, you know.
And I would have no problem conditioning the amendment that they have to finish the special permit work first
Right,
and only then.
right.
Good with
Unless
that.
there's some other special reason that we're unaware of.
With color renderings?
I mean,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we've got some leverage. so-
I do want to, because of that comment. The commission recognized staff was strongly objecting to this petition being granted. In there, and it's a relic. It was a bad planning on the city's part not to have that site acquired when. Back
Oh, you
in-
mean way back in the day?
Well, no, when they came here and they wanted to convert that to the C-store. In there, we were adamant that it was not in the city's best interest. But given, the community support that was here at the time. And even some of the documentation that was submitted by one of the residents. The commission said, granted the special permit change. And this is a tough site, and if this site were to go under. There's really no viable use for it. I mean, it's too expensive for the office building to buy it to put up. 20 more parking stalls. It just doesn't make sense. And there's just not enough area to do anything on the site. So I think the goal of the commission was, hey, we'll work with you, but you got to work with us. And there, and we did so in good faith, no pun intended, in terms of the name, in there, but to get, one, get aprons off of Olive and help improve the circulation. Two, make the community more pedestrian friendly, and that was part of they did, add a full sidewalk that runs from Old Bonham up to the building, around the building. Before it was just kind of painted, or it was asphalt and concrete. Now you have a lip in there. And then three was, we recognize the importance of that corner, because I agree with you, Commissioner Spiegel, last in there, and that they were to do we would allow some site, they were going to get rid of the pole signage, put some type of monument signage and some type of landscape amenity in that front, and they had up to 18 months to do that. And again, they're still in compliance on that component. So
Okay. Any further discussion or any further action do we need to do?
nope, I'll talk to the commissioners, and they wouldn't, if they're back, it wouldn't be until our second meeting in September. Again, our next meeting is a joint meeting with council. So
Okay, good. Okay, then we'll move on to other business. Item A, meeting minutes
you should have a set of meeting minutes.
of August 3rd in our packets.
Yes, sir.
Is there anybody who would like to acknowledge receipt of the August 3rd meeting minutes?
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Carol.
I'd like to acknowledge receipt of the August 3rd, 2023 meeting minutes.
Acknowledged. All right, so we'll move on to reports. Carlos?
All right, I'll start on the west side of town this time. So the Five Oaks on Warson is coming around. We're probably within 2 months before public occupancy. Parks and Recreation are working hard to try to get things together internally and then transition to that space for administrative use before it opens to the public. Memberships are now available in there, and it's a great looking building if you get the opportunity to drive by and take a look. It's shaping up very well in there. Part of that includes the extension of the Great Rivers Greenway Trail, the Centennial Trail. In there, that component that's along the community center is complete. But phase 2 is going out for bid next month, and the construction probably starting shortly thereafter. And that will be the extension of the trail from Warson Park up through Indian Meadows and then through Indian Meadows Park to Dillman Road in there. And it'll be a really nice trail system in there. The goal is eventually from Dillman, that trail will be extended eastward, and then we'll interconnect with I-170 and all of in there. So, and as we head towards, well, staying on the east, we do know, like our neighbor at Creek Core and the Bear Campus on the west side, there is a development in there, and they have information online. It's pretty much creating like a Streets of St. Charles kind of town center. And there that will include a combination of the majority of being apartments, some retail, a retail box, and then some detached townhomes towards the along the residential boundaries on the south side of the project. In there, so it's pretty impressive. It's a large site. It's over 7. Yes,
This is by the Schnooks. that's
Correct.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
so so they have that coming in, and of course across the street where the theater is, where the old Stir Crazy and the current California Pizza Kitchen are, there is a proposal to raise those buildings there, and then along there construct some additional apartments up on that bluff that you see, in front of the theater.
Go demo all those retail.
Correct.
Wow.
So you would still keep the barbecue place and the not Andy's, I forgot what the burger place.
Freddy's, those all stay,
will stay.
those all stay to the east, and to the west is what's coming down, like CPK and all those.
That's a big
and,
parking.
And the other one, yeah, it's a dead area right there.
Yeah.
It's dead. I was in there the other day. It's a dead place.
Wow.
Stir Crazy's been dead for a while, right?
That went out of business maybe right before COVID.
Yeah,
maybe?
exactly.
Yeah.
Wow.
Stir Crazy.
Oh, yes.
Man,
Why snow?
That's a lot more apartments.
Yes, and it is interesting, and I'll talk about it a little later on there. On by Dobbs Easy Storage, the construction continues. It's interesting in terms of how that construction works, because they're framing, then they pour that concrete floor, and then they bring up the walls in there. So it's kind of going up in increments. So it'll be as tall as the towers that you see that are the stairwells on each side. But right now they have the 2 full floors completed. You can see the retail base on the bottom. We haven't, with the new city manager, we'll reach out shortly to have discussions with them about, what the retailer interest is on that side. So I don't have any updates for that. And as you get to Plant Haven, the council did authorize the issuance of a special permit for the Great Harvest Brewing. And this is the next step will be for them to put their plan sets together, finalize those, and come back to the commission in there with a majority of the focus addressing the ventilation systems and how that is going to be tackled. So, and oh no, that's at the council next week. I'm sorry, I'm a week ahead. So that discussion or the public hearing will take place on Tuesday. And there, moving down the corridor, we're still working with Mr. Cohen in there and MSD to finalize the final plans to start going through the permitting process in there, and then determine how he's going to plat the property in there before like the street network can be put in place. And there, it seems like they've resolved everything with county. And again, the dual entrances that were initially presented to the commission have now been consolidated to a single entrance because of county concerns over visibility and all that. As you go continue west, we haven't heard anything from the art gallery in terms of when they anticipate construction of that addition coming into place. The wine merchants opened up shop and there they had a soft opening this Saturday, is my understanding. And so they're up and operating. And then at Olive Crossing, We've been in discussions with the developer and all that. We understand on the street conditions, there's still one pole that's out there that just doesn't seem to go away in there. And I know our public work director is working hard to talk to the utility companies and get the urgency of getting that removed, but there's still wires that are on this pole on the southeast corner of Hilltop and Olive. And I think we're down to one utility. But it would be like right in the middle of that third new lane. So until that gets removed, that can't get completed. But it doesn't give the developer any way out that the sidewalk improvements on Price can be completed within the next couple of weeks. Now that we're in good weather in there. So it's been a long time that you can walk from Price up to the corner and get to CVS or even further down. So the city is getting on the developer to get that expedited as soon as possible in there. So we hope within the next week or so, there'll be mobilizer that'll be completed in there. And being so, we're talking to them because we've authorized some occupancy of the apartment complexes. I think they have 9 units that are occupied. And there's at least, I believe he had indicated 30 more units that are pending or have contracts pending for them. He will be reaching out and sending out notices about a opening for the Clover. I'm not sure if commission members received those yet or not. And if you did, you got it before we did. Okay. In there, we do have the one of the first of the retail buildings in there that will house the Paris Baguette, and we also have their plans for their tenant finish in there. We don't anticipate anything on the office building, hopefully within, towards the end of the year, I think is what's set on the schedule. Regarding the development behind Chevy's, they should be applying for building permits within the next couple of weeks. So that project will get off the ground and start moving in there. One of the emphasis that the city has asked is that they complete the sidewalk along Alice and finally provide that interconnectivity between the Hilltop Arrowhead neighborhoods and the industrial park.
No, you're not talking about Andy Cohen, you're talking about the apartment development.
That is correct. And there's
Who's doing that now?
that is Balboa is the name of the firm. They do have a project here that's been completed in St. Louis, also in Kansas City, and then others nationally in there. Now they were partnered with Opus from the very beginning. And then and Opus is also like a design build business. And then Opus was good once everything was complete, Opus was going to turn it over to Balboa. Opus is no longer part of that project, so Balboa will be overseeing everything from construction to managing the property afterwards. They'll use, of course, outside expert help to do the plans and the construction, where previously under Opus, all that was in-house. I think that covers everything. Oh, if you've noticed, under the I-170 bridge on the south wall, there's a little green square in that. And that was the process of testing the colors and how well that wall would hold the paint in there. So that is going to become a mural. So again, that's the south side one. That mural would be advertising for the Great Rivers Greenway, but that will advertise that this is the Centennial Trail in there. So they should be starting that within the next week or two.
Right.
And then what I've heard on our neighbors to the east, it looks like they're going to have a First Watch, this Chase Bank, Chipotle, Supercuts, Canes, all on the south side. And then on the north side, the building that's under construction is the Chick-fil-A. And there was talk about that on the south side would be a Deerbirds, on the north side adjacent to Costco would be a Target. It looked like that deal kind of fell apart, but now what we're hearing is that the Deerbirds would go next door to Costco and that the development would be as steep as it was before. So be a great opportunity for our residents to have it nearby. And that's so wish them success in getting that off the ground in there. So I think that kind of covers
Yeah, it's great.
I'd be glad to answer any questions. And Don and Jack, if there's anything that you want to provide.
Any questions or comments from commission?
I think I've asked the Oliver, like the restaurant there, kind of that just plat of land right there.
Yeah, now that Ms. Yackley is on there, that's one of our things to get
Yeah.
back in discussions with the developer.
Kind of
see
like they
what-
said, in terms of driving down all of it's like this random plot of land that was supposed to have some kind of restaurant or some kind of thing there. So it just seems odd, but
Okay, Missy?
All right, thank you very much. Carlos does a great summary there. I'm really kind of glad that Yearbooks could be back in the picture, although they've always told us we're in the golden triangle, so that would be nice to achieve. The only thing I really have to add is City Manager Jennifer Yackley is here for a week now and getting acclimated to everything. I will be having my conversations with her, next month, she's a planner, I like planners. And the only thing I really want to add at this point is my task with the municipal league will begin again. I got a 3-year term with the executive board. And so on the 22nd of August, I will be attending a legislative roundtable at 8:30 in the morning with elected officials in Kirkwood. And if there's anything that's pressing to you guys that you think is important for me to consider bringing up, let me know. Same goes with staff. I'll be letting Miss Yackley know that tomorrow's Friday, tomorrow.
Good, good.
And I appreciate everything you do. Thank you all so much. And again, remember September 13th, we're going to have Carlos and Beth Quigley with talking about the comprehensive plan. And you will join us, or I should say the council will join us for our next meeting on September 7th. I look forward to that and appreciate y'all. That's it.
Thanks, Missy. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, we'll adjourn at 8:13.
Job, Rob. Good job.
Damn it.
20 minutes late
Yeah.
start.
Yeah.
I mean, what?
Thank you.